Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Hot Seat. The healthcare sector is at the center of this unprecedented global pandemic. Overall, healthcare systems are under a lot of pressure, tension, and strain to deliver the necessary services to their communities. Here in St. Lucia, we're saying that the virus has shone a light on our healthcare crisis, and today I sit with the Honorable Minister for Health, Honorable Mary Isaac. Good day, Minister.
Good day.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. Ready to start my day.
And how is the Ministry of Health?
The Ministry of Health is doing a wonderful job. We are following the protocols and encouraging everybody else to do so, to continue to do so, at least until we know to do otherwise.
Ministers of health across the region and across the world have been taking a prominent role in the corona crisis and setting policy for their countries. What do you say to critics who have said that you seem to have virtually left the front line and someone else has been leading from the front?
You see, we have politicized the public service to the point where unless a minister speaks, people do not want to listen. But we have a very huge wage bill as a result of paying so many public workers to do what it is that they are supposed to do. And this is what I practice at the Ministry of Health. I allow the necessary staff to do the work that they are paid to do. And they appreciate that I allow them to do that. The chief medical officer is the person who has to, by law, is required to lead the charge when you look at quarantine, isolating persons, and on health matters. You understand? That is, any catastrophic health matter, the chief medical officer is the person who has to be in the lead, advising the entire country, not just myself. So what I have done is I have allowed her to play her part and perform her role as per her job description and what is required of her.
But Minister, couldn't your role have been more significant and inspirational so that we, the St. Lucians, could have felt inspired, motivated, and felt more at ease by the presence and the support of our Minister of Health?
Well, you see, you cannot mix up the technical stuff that needed to go out there with anything else. So in the beginning, what we wanted was for people to understand the technical information that was going out there. And that was of paramount importance to the Ministry of Health. At the same time, I was there in the background saying yes or no, let's do this, let's do that. So everything was rolling through by myself, and I was agreeing or disagreeing, and with my cabinet of ministers, we were always there and on board. But we had to allow the technical issues to be dealt with, and for the public to understand that this is critical, we are in a crisis, and this is something that we are dealing with. It's very dynamic. You've got to listen to the CMO. So every day you have to be waiting and listening for the messages from our CMO. We did not want to dilute that, or we did not want to scare anybody also, because for the minister to come out and, be saying certain things vis-a-vis, we wanted people to focus on what the CMO was saying and what she was putting out there. And I think that happened very well. The people, they stepped in line. And this is why now I can come on board and say, look, this is what it is. You're supposed to continue practicing those protocols, which she has emphasized you must carry out. And this is where it was very important for me to stay in the background and allow the CMO to drive it home, how important it was to listen to the reports she's giving and to comply with the requirements, as she was saying that you ought to be complying with the protocols.
The CMO and other officials were very careful not to let us know where the cases were coming from, where was most affected by the coronavirus. And we have been reliably informed that these cases were mostly coming from the south. Why weren't we informed where those cases were?
Okay. You know that our borders, as far as we know, are most porous in those areas in the south, right? Now, we recognize that there was a lot of stigma attached to persons whom people believe may have the virus. At that time, people were actually resisting coughing, refraining from coughing or any little sign of a cold or a flu because they were afraid somebody might think they have coronavirus. And why? Because they know there is a stigma that would be attached to them. So we at the Ministry of Health did not want to put these people in any danger by exposing where they were coming from. Right? Also, when you're looking at medicine, you have a level of confidentiality that you must maintain about your patients and their well-being, about what sicknesses they have or do not have. You have to maintain that level of confidentiality. And this is what Ministry of Health has maintained to this date.
Okay. Around the world, Minister, we have seen that when countries have made the decision to reopen the country, reopen their borders, that there has been a second wave of the virus. And as a matter of fact, in places like Singapore and Japan, you find that cases are now worse than they were initially. Do you think that this is the right time, health-wise, to reopen our country?
Mm-hmm. You see, you are comparing us to countries that have a huge population. And it will be a lot more difficult for these people to control the virus than ourselves, given our small size. Also, this is a new virus, and nobody knows what to expect. We approach it from one day to the next. The situation on the ground is very dynamic. So as such, we have to look at the experience of our country and then decide on what it is that we are going to do. So right now, we have closed our borders, we have gone through curfews, and we have taken all the necessary measures to protect the St. Lucian public. We are at a point right now where we have 0 positive cases on island, and this has been ongoing for a while. So now we are saying, on a step-by-step basis, we are opening gradually, and we are taking our time to do so, observing all the necessary protocols.
The epicenter of the virus keeps shifting. First it was, of course, Wuhan, China, then moved to Italy, and now the epicenter is in the United States, particularly the state of New York. But we're opening our borders, and we're saying that the tourists will be coming from the United States. Isn't there a justifiable fear that we may put ourselves in a situation that we were not in before by opening our borders to the very place that the virus is at its worst?
And this is precisely why we are asking everyone to continue to follow the protocols. We have been able to contain this disease. We have been able to manage it very successfully in St. Lucia. Our medical practitioners are actually treating the positive cases back to health. So one can say that we know how to do it, right? So we are banking on that, as well as everyone practicing the protocols, and we are putting more protocols in place for people who will be coming in across our borders.
Just recently, France, who opened their schools, they saw a surge in coronavirus cases, and St. Lucia is talking about opening schools for some students who are supposed to be sitting very important exams. Do you think that it is safe for us to send teachers and students back to the classroom?
Well, that is still under consideration. It is not a definite, it has not been decided on definitely. The CMO, Ministry of Health, is still working with the Ministry of Education and all the relevant stakeholders to ensure that if and when we do that, it will be done the way that it ought to be done. But also, we are looking at ensuring that these children are not deprived of a good education, an education that they deserve to get, right? At the same time, we are careful to ensure that we protect their health. But if we find that it is something that is possible at the end of the day, then we will move ahead and do so. But we will observe the protocols as much as possible when we are doing that. You recognize that it is only grade 6 students and Form 5s that we are talking about. And we have quite a few schools on island. So we can look at an approach where we are able to distance the kids. We are able to practice the disinfectant protocols that we put in place, wash your hands, sanitize, and so on. So if and when we know for a fact that we can do that, then we are going to take the next step and say these children ought to be back in school. Because it is proven to be very, very difficult having to teach the children online. I have a daughter myself, and it has not been easy. Sometimes the technology is not cooperating, the Wi-Fi drops, the child gets frustrated having to sit there and listen and interact with the instructor and all other children online. And to me, it is a very frustrating process. It can be.
It certainly can be. You mentioned a while ago about washing hands specifically, and we are in a drought. We are experiencing a drought in St. Lucia, and we are saying that hotels will soon be reopening so that we can accept guests and for us to stimulate the economy. But experts are saying that usually when the hotels are fully open, they use about half of our water supply in St. Lucia. What do you think right now is the best way forward considering the circumstances we are in with our water situation?
We are monitoring everything that we are doing right now. We are looking at, can we allow, how many hotels are we going to allow to reopen? And all of that depends, of course, on us getting advice on the people who are responsible for our water systems. Now, if they are able to say to us, it's okay to do so, then we move along. If they say we do not have sufficient water to open more hotels and so on and so forth, you see, we have to get the technical advice for us to do the things that we want to do. But it is critical at this stage for us to continue to open up so that people go back to work, so that we continue to create the environment where our economy will thrive and survive. Because we cannot allow people to remain without work for so long. Government has no money to support so many people who are out of work. And, we just have to start looking at the new norm and start to find out ways and means of living with COVID.
Ways and means of living with COVID. That's really interesting. One of the important things that you have done, that has been done since the onset of the virus here in St. Lucia, is that all the hindrances and the obstacles that were announced to the opening of the OKEU prior to the coronavirus, the first case of coronavirus here in St. Lucia, have been dealt with in just mere weeks. How were you able to open the hospital so quickly, with the hospital having stayed closed for so very long?
You see, we still have the issues that we had prior to opening the hospital. They are still there. We could not open the hospital because we were looking at the perfect situation for us to open it, perfect timing, for us to have everything in place, the backup generators, which is one of the issues. But since we had an emergency on our hands presented by COVID, what we did was we took our chances, and while the generators and the other things we need are on order, we decided to open up and move into the hospital because we really needed the space at Victoria Hospital to create the new respiratory care facility. So it doesn't mean that all the problems disappeared. A lot of them are still there. But it was safe enough. We made it safe enough for us to move. Because remember, we had already started the move in phases. So what we did was we just speed up the entire process so that, we could start facilitating the whole impact of COVID.
So now that the hospital is finally open, there are allegations that people are being turned away. There is a post going around where a mother is saying that she took her expecting daughter to the hospital, and the pregnant young lady was turned away because of lack of funds or insufficient funds. Are St. Lucians being turned away from the hospital because they don't have money?
I have tried to verify that story. And I did not get very far. They are still trying to find out whether that report is a true depiction of what actually happened. But we are not turning people away at OKEU. They may ask you to pay up front, which is what so many hospitals do, depending on what procedure you want to do. For instance, if you have to get a CT scan at Victoria Hospital, you have to go to Tapio. Tapio is a private care institution, so you have to pay up front. So Victoria Hospital will inform you that we need a CT scan, however, we have to take that person to Tapio. So somebody has to go to Tapio, pay the money for the CT scan, come back to VH with the receipt to show that it's paid, and then the patient is transported to Tapio for the CT scan. So there are situations where you may find that the hospital is saying you need to pay up front, depending on what transaction you have come to do or what kind of care that you want. We also have private doctors that are working at Victoria Hospital. We have private consultants, and for them to just come to see a patient, you may have to pay up before they come for the visit. So in a lot of cases, what we hear and see on social media is not necessarily the truth. I'm not saying in this case it is not. I'm just saying that I have not been able to verify that that situation actually transpired the way that it is presented on Facebook.
Understood. But just for clarification's sake, usually when we go to the hospital, the public hospital, we get served first. And yes, there is an issue with certain people having difficulty paying thereafter. But usually we are served first. And even in the United States, the great United States, you find that people who are in critical need of care are served, and then payment is not considered, but negotiated after.
That is right. That is right. Because between there and now, I was at OKEU just yesterday, and many people are coming in, you understand? And they are admitted, they are taken care of, and there's no issue about payment until after, you've received a lot of the different services. So I do not know exactly what transpired, and it would be very interesting to really, track and find out what this whole story was about, because that is not the modus operandi at OKEU.
Before the corona crisis, the coronavirus, COVID-19 came and occupied our minds, one of the most important issues that was being discussed, especially as it related to the nurses, is the tenure of nurses and how that would have been affected by the transfer of those nurses from the Victoria Hospital to the OKEU Hospital. Has that been resolved?
That is being resolved as we speak, because that is an issue between the public service as well as, because the public service is the employer, right? Government of St. Lucia is the employer of all the people that are on permanent establishment. And of course, we have quite a few staff on contract. Many nurses are on contract, doctors, consultants are on contract. But what has happened is the legislation require that everybody is under the supervision of the board, under the employment of the board. The board is not government, and therefore these people will have to be, those who are employed by government will have to be seconded to the board. And other people who want to just, who want to transfer their contract and agreements and everything will do so. That will not be a problem for people on contract. The problem is where you have a worker who is on permanent establishment having to go over to work at OKEU. That person will have to be seconded. And that is the process that we are trying to complete at this very moment.
So it was my understanding that primary health care facilities would have been given resources and would have been upgraded in order to alleviate the pressure on the OKEU hospital. To date, we have not seen an upgrade or an injection of resources in the Soufrière Hospital, in the Dennery Hospital, in the Grosley Polyclinic. When do you expect these centers will be able to fully serve the communities that they're located in?
We are working on a number of things right now at the Ministry of Health, including the respiratory hospital, retrofitting it properly as a respiratory care facility, because we recognize that COVID is going to be with us for a long time. The primary care facilities, we have been doing work on a lot of these facilities. PAHO just completed a renovation process on a lot of these facilities, about 23 of them. right? And they are upgraded. They have fridges and stoves that they didn't have before, and things like that. They've made them more user-friendly, more environmentally friendly, and so on and so forth. But when we speak about improving primary health care, we are talking about a very large budget, okay? And as you know, with the onset, we are not blaming everything on COVID, but when it comes to health, we have a lot to blame on COVID because it has really stopped us in our tracks. We could have completed the transfer of workers from Victoria Hospital to OKU, and that is, we had to take a step back because of that. We have all the Cuban doctors and nurses that we had to bring into the system. And of course, we have to take care of these people. We have to provide housing. We have to provide all their needs while they are here. So the healthcare budget has really taken a beating as a result of COVID. It has increased by $32 million because of what is happening right now. So a lot of what we intended to do in primary care, we'll have to wait for a little while. However, we have the loan from the World Bank, and that is really going into primary care. So the works are going to continue, but not as quickly as we would have liked them to, because we had to refocus and take the same set of resources, the same workers, to put in renovating. We also are renovating the mental wellness hospital so that it can take the fallout from the OKEU, because OKEU has less beds than the Victoria Hospital. So right now, there's a lot of work going on through or under the supervision of the Ministry of Health. So we cannot do everything at one time, but we are still focusing a lot of our energy on strengthening primary health care so that we do not have so many people needing to go to OKEU. Because when I was there yesterday, I saw people coming in there. And to me, these people do not need to come into OKEU to get a lot of the services that they are coming there for. They should be able to get that in primary care.
The people of the South have been deprived of a hospital since 2010. As a matter of fact, in the lead up to the 2016 general elections, you spoke ad nauseum on the state of St. Jude's Hospital. My question to you is, 4 years later, do you think it is fair that the St. Jude's Hospital is still in a state of disrepair?
I will agree that it is unfair that the St. Jude Hospital has taken so long to be rebuilt. Okay, generally I think because the fire was since 2009, right? We are in 2020. And I believe that more could have been done. When I started as Minister of Health and I took my first tour of what was on the ground, I was very disappointed. What I saw, even if I'm not an engineer and I'm not a builder, as soon as I walked in there, I knew that that facility could not be used as a hospital, And it is very disheartening for me to even speak about remembering what I found when I came on board and what we were being told, that the hospital was near completion and all of that stuff. I was very disappointed, and I kept saying to people, come and see it for yourself and see if you think it can be a hospital.
It seems that the issue of the St. Jude's Hospital is relegated to just the building, the structure. Do you think, or what would you say to those who are saying that it is more than just an issue of a structure? It seems like it speaks to inefficiency in governance and inefficiency in administration, inefficiency in people getting the work done.
I think all of these things, I think I would agree to all of what you've just said. And it is sad that an institution that is so necessary has taken so long to come back into full service to the people. It's not just the people of the South, because I lived in Castries when I was having my daughter and I went up to St. Jude. I preferred to go to St. Jude. Okay, so it is the whole country, the whole island. We all appreciate the purpose that St. Jude served in St. Lucia. And it is unfortunate that it has taken so long for us to come back into office, and we have to complete this hospital before our term is up. But one thing I know, We are entirely, as a government, we are entirely focused on completing St. Jude Hospital so that we can bring a better level of care to the people of the South.
Is it that successive governments then lack the political will to do what is necessary so that the people of the South and the people of St. Lucia can be properly served by a suitable hospital?
I wouldn't put it that way, because when you look at what happened after the hospital burned down, the hospital was supposed to be renovated. It's one wing that burned down, and the renovations were almost complete. I actually saw an invitation inviting people to the reopening of St. Jude in December of, I think it was 2010 or something like that. So the intention for the government of the day when it happened was there to reopen, within reasonable time. And I can well see that was possible, given the fact that it was being renovated. The wing was being renovated. And it would have been better, it would have served the people of the South better if at the time we had complete the renovation, so that the hospital would go back into use. Instead, what you saw was a long period of time, nothing was happening, money was getting wasted, and to this day, it is this administration that had to come back, and we are going to finish the hospital.
So the hospital will be finished before the next general elections?
Most likely. This is what we are aiming for, to complete St. Jude Hospital. We are determined to open OKEU, and when we came in, there was no money to finance the opening of OKEU. As you can see, the former administration named the hospital about $200,000 down the road and could not open the hospital. And there was not sufficient money left to open OKEU or to run OKEU. Right now, we had to source funds to open OKEU, and we are still in the process of finding ways and means of financing OKEU, because it's a very expensive hospital to run.
So you are agreeing with the former administration then? They were saying that it's very expensive to run the hospital. It's okay to open it, but their argument was it's very expensive to run the hospital. So are you agreeing that they were right? It is very expensive to run the hospital, and they did not find the money to run it.
But the question is, why not? You have a hospital, it's a gift, it was given to you. You sit there and you say, we don't have money to run it. We don't have money to open it. Another administration comes in, we came in, and we found the way to open it. We found the money to open it. We're talking about the taxpayers' money.
Albeit under pressure.
That is right.
Okay.
But we found ways and means of opening it. And now we have to find ways to continue to run it and manage it. And people in St. Lucia were asking for that hospital to open. But now we, as a nation, must come together and ensure that when we go to that hospital, we find the money to pay for the services that are being offered in that hospital. Because it's not going to be a free-for-all like Victoria Hospital. We have to continue to finance the hospital.
Just going back just a little bit to St. Jude's, then, are we going to fully operationalize a fully fledged hospital and not a health center or a polyclinic?
Well, I know it's definitely a hospital, and it's not going to be a polyclinic or health center, right? How sophisticated and, how much better it might be, even than OKEU, depends on, the funding that becomes available. But right now, the plan is to have a very high quality, level hospital in the South.
My last question on this subject: what do you say to the criticism that you appear to have virtually relegated your role to the Minister of Economic Development, as he is the one who is seen most of the times speaking on the matter of St. Jude's Hospital?
You see, the Ministry of Health, as a matter of fact, is responsible for the services that are offered in the structure. But the structure, any structure itself, falls under economic development. So right now we are waiting for the completion of the structure that we call the St. Jude Hospital. And then when it is complete, you hand the keys over to the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health takes it from there. Even furnishing the hospital is the responsibility of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. But we work hand in hand in terms of the design, the flow, and everything else. So what you find is the Ministry of Health puts pressure on the Ministry of Economic Development to say, hey, we need this done. What is happening? So we keep track of what is going on with St. Jude Hospital every step of the way.
So for clarification, it is not the Ministry of Infrastructure that is responsible for the building or the buildings, but it's economic development.
For building the structure, it's economic development. For maintaining most of our structures, infrastructure plays a role. But the Ministry of Health, together with any other entity, is responsible for the overall management, maintenance, and everything when it comes to health.
You are watching The Hot Seat. When we come back, we're going to find out from the Minister of Health and Wellness what is in the plan for universal health care and the universal health insurance. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Hot Seat. We are discussing health with the Minister for Health and Wellness. Minister, what is your greatest accomplishment? Can you point to any one thing since you have been Minister for Health now for almost 4 years? What is your greatest accomplishment?
I think I would say opening OKEU. Fully opening OKEU and having it running, as our main hospital on island. I think that is our greatest accomplishment under my leadership in the Ministry of Health.
Can St. Lucians expect the long-awaited and needed universal health care? And what is the position of the government on the proposed universal health insurance?
Well, as you know, we are doing a lot of work on universal health care. It was at the forefront, even more so than moving to OKEU. And we were sort of working on both of these projects, together simultaneously. But now with COVID, we have sort of allowed the consultant who is doing the work on it to really be in the lead on that. And we are not as focused on universal health care as we were, because some of our attention has been taken away and placed on, moving to OKEU and, focusing on COVID and managing COVID. So we have a consultant working on the universal healthcare package, coming up with what the package is going to entail and so on. But that also, now more than ever, we will have to source the financing, because some of the monies we are using to deal with COVID was supposed to be going into that package. So when it comes to financing the package, we may have to start from scratch, but it is on the table.
I'm happy that you mentioned financing. The former Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, who was one of the first Prime Ministers to speak about universal health care between 2001 and 2006, in 2011, he explained that universal health care is an expensive venture and that it would take a lot from taxpayers for us as a country to be able to afford universal health care. As you have been working on universal health care, can you give us some insight as to how expensive, how costly would it be for the average St. Lucian so that all of us would be able to benefit from universal health care?
If we are able to bring about universal health care, I believe from the last time we looked at the costing for that, it would cost less than $1,000 annually, I think, for a St. Lucian to be covered. But I think it's annually. But of course, you have to look at the number of persons that would have to be covered under a government program because of so many people that we have that's unemployed. We have a lot of people that are unemployable as well. So our poverty list is extremely high, especially now. So it is going to be a very expensive, venture that, we have to find the financing for in St. Lucia.
Minister, moving on to your involvement as a trade unionist, you were ushered into politics on the wave of workers' rights and championing workers' rights. It has been recently said by insinuated by one of your cabinet colleagues that civil servants, public servants can be slothful and inefficient, and that the service is too heavy, that there needs to be a trimming of the fat. Do you agree with those statements?
Well, we have been hearing that from time immemorial, that the public service is too heavy, and we have a lot of wastage in the public service, and so on and so forth. But I believe what is important at a time like now is for us to recognize that we are in a crisis. We are in a global crisis. It is not just about St. Lucia. We have a lot of, all our cruise people are coming back home. They are unemployed, right? We have a lot of companies, agencies, small businesses that are closing down as a result of COVID. These people do not have a salary. They are unemployed. We have households right now where both workers, mother and father, are not working and they have children, right? Economies in other parts of the world have collapsed. Places where there's a lot more money and a lot more people than St. Lucia do not know what to do. In Canada, for instance, not that we can even compare ourselves to Canada, in Canada, they are printing a lot of money just so that their people can survive and the economy can stay afloat. We do not have that luxury in St. Lucia to print money. We do not have a deep pocket. Tourism was our mainstay. While we would have liked it to be agriculture, and even if agriculture was our mainstay, under a COVID, there would not be any monies coming in from outside. Our borders were closed. So here you have so many people on the breadline. This virus has placed so many of our people on the breadline. What I say every night is, what are we going to do? So public workers are in a very, very prestigious position right now from a trade union standpoint. And from years ago, we have been, in my time, we were struggling to figure out what is the role of the trade union in this current environment where governments are saying, I am going to work with you as the representative of the workers. Trade unions were trying to figure out what is now their role, because it cannot be a combative role. It has to be a role where you cooperate, where you look for the solutions, because your entire country can sink. So this is not the time for trade unions to be saying, flexing their muscles and doing things like that. They have to come up with practical solutions that is going to help not just the public servant, but all those people who are unemployed. And they must ensure that government do not cut down on the public service, because these public servants are the ones that a lot of people are looking towards for their daily bread right now, for a meal. So they must do everything they can to ensure that the public workers remain at work, but at what cost?
So are you saying that the same Mary Isaac who rejected the 000 in 2015 would accept this offer by the government of St. Lucia, 50% of your salary in cash and the other half in government bonds?
Remember that there was no COVID at the time. There was not even a hurricane. There was not a breeze or a wind at the time, right? The government was not able to grow the economy. And they had already sunk the country into a very large deficit mode, right? And they were saying to public workers, we cannot help you. While the public workers were working and producing, okay? We had no disaster, no catastrophe, nothing. It was business as usual, you understand? And then to try to take a 5% for what? You see? And these are the things that I stood against, right? I always maintained while I was president of the union, When public workers came to me, I would say, yes, you have your right as a worker, but you have to give a fair day's work for that fair day's pay that you are getting. So we are in a completely different environment right now, you know, and it is not only that you have to play trade unionism and look for kudos for yourself as, you know, presidents of these unions. The kudos will come if you are able to lead the workers in terms of taking the right decision. Right now, it's not about 000. It is about minus. For all these people who are not working, they have zero salary. You understand? And if you have a worker who is supporting anyone, some of these people, you must try to ensure that that little protection remain there.
So what is your response then to the perception that you have displayed a volte-face in your stance towards workers' rights, as in there is an about turn in Mary Isaac and the approach to workers' rights?
There is absolutely no about turn. I have always operated on this premise, right? That yes, you have your rights, but you have to ensure that your right do not become your wrong. And I've always said to workers, do not bite the hand that feeds you. And they take it the wrong way. But myself, I apply that in my own daily life, right? Right now, who is feeding you? It's those same people, the taxpayers, who are now unemployed. Eh? That is where the government money comes from. That's where the money comes from. So you are saying to these taxpayers who have fed you for so many years now that, hey, you are out of a job, that's your business, but I want everything I can get. That is not fair.
What is the future then for Mary Isaac in politics? You ran in 2016 against the incumbent representative for Castries South. What is the plan?
The plan is for me to support the government, the people of St. Lucia. The plan is for me to give service as much as possible, to continue to serve my country in whatever way or capacity that I can do so.
Sadly, a very important member of your team is no longer with us, Mr. Victor Morris. How would you move forward if you were to run again against a charismatic Ernest Hiller?
Well, you see, I leave a lot in the hands of God, and the people know my heart. It is, for me, it's not about politics. It's not about winning. It is about serving the people, you know, that you love. Serving the constituency, serving your community, so that it is a better place tomorrow for those young people that are coming up. I see a lot of despair, a lot of desperation in the constituency, and I would like to get the opportunity to change that. I know I can.
But you are the minister in government, and when you are in government, you actually have an advantage that the present parliamentary doesn't have. So is it possible for you to serve the constituency and alleviate the despair, address the distress, and that will make you or put you at a better advantage to win next time?
Well, the constituency that I serve now is the constituency of healthcare in St. Lucia. That is the constituency that I serve. So everybody in the constituency of Castries South that fall in that category at any time at all, they do get my help and support as much as possible. But my main goal now is to ensure that the health and wellness of the people of St. Lucia, that health and wellness is well taken care of. And while I have this opportunity, let me just say that I see a lot more people walking, exercising on mornings. And I think that is something that we need to applaud, because that can really reduce our healthcare cost in the long run. If people take care of their health, if people watch what it is that they eat, what it is, they make sure they drink a lot of water, try to stay healthy before you get to the point where you have to end up in a hospital. And I believe we are in an environment where God is protecting us from this COVID virus. I do not know what it is, but He is protecting us, and we have to give God the glory.
The rumor mill has suggested that His Worship, Peterson Francis, has his designs on Castries South. What are your thoughts, and are you at all intimidated by that suggestion?
I do not know that I hold up to the word intimidate, right? This is a free country, it's a democracy, and anybody who feel that they're up to the challenge, they should, pick up the baton and run with it. I wish anybody and everybody who want to run that constituency good luck. But what I know is I have served the people of Castries South. I will continue to serve them. I know a lot of them need a lot of help because that constituency has been deprived for a very long time. But it can be better if the people to decide to look at who it is that will provide them with the best leadership, the best care. And I believe that I am that person. But it is really up to the electorate to decide on who they want to lead their constituency.
Very well. One last question for you, Minister, and that question is on mental health. Just recently, we were inundated with videos on television and on our phones, on social media, and so on. A young lady abandoned or sought to get rid of, or I'm not even sure what word to use because it is very ticklish, but a baby was left in a bag at the side of a road where young men were able to find and get assistance. The question is about the mental health of the mother and what would prompt a mother to take such a very drastic step. When it comes to mental health and the corona crisis, it is also something that goes hand in hand. How is mental health and the state of our mental health care in St. Lucia?
That is a very unfortunate incident. Actually, it's more than unfortunate because I come across a lot of young people who are having children and they do not know what to do with the children as well as themselves. Maybe what we ought to do here is to dispel a lot of the rumors that's going around about the mother and the father. Actually, the young lady whose pictures they are throwing all over the network is not the child's mother. She has come out and said she's not the child's mother. She knows nothing about that, and so on. As for the father, we do not know. There's a story about them being siblings. This we do not know. We cannot confirm that. But what we do know is there is a young lady out there who needs help. She needs help in terms of health care. So we would want that young lady to come in to report to us. We are not the police. We are in charge of health. And all we are asking is if somebody knows where she is, to inform us. You can call our hotline, you can call 311, you can call the hospital, you can call myself. Somebody call us to tell us where that young lady is because she may well be endangering her own life. And that is my main concern right now. The baby is fine, but the mother, we need to know where the mother is. We need her to come in for health care, so that she can get the necessary treatment and help that she needs.
That is it for us this week on The Hot Seat, the status of our national health care. Thank you for tuning in and good night.